Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So why did you want to become a conductor at a young age?
Well, I must say that as a child, and when I started playing the flute, which was my instrument, I never thought of being a conductor. My kind of childhood youth dream or musical dream was maybe more to be a composer. And when I was I think 18 already, I wrote a flute and piano piece that I was at the time, and I think even now, quite proud of. And it was because as a child, I always wanted to write my own piece. I played the flute and the piano. And I must say, when I finished this composition, which took me quite a long time because it was something new for me, it's as if the drive and the impulse and the wish to be a composer faded away. And I must say, coming to conducting was a natural step for me, coming out of two elements, I think, love and curiosity. Love for the repertoire, because as a flute player, I was really missing, playing, the chamber music that is written for flute. I was always very jealous of string instruments and pianists, to play Brahms and Beethoven and whatever. But also I always had a huge love for orchestra, and of course I love playing in orchestra. But being a very curious person as I was, when I thought of myself, I saw myself all my life playing flute in an orchestra. I soon realized that I was not going to be fulfilled like that. And so it was a natural thing. I loved orchestral repertoire. I loved, of course, music very much. And I was very curious about the other instruments, what other people do, and the interactions, the energies that happen within the orchestra. So I don't think I became a conductor because of a wish to lead, but because out of pure curiosity and love. And then once I began doing that, I did conduct at the Guildhall School in London. My first concert was Beethoven First Symphony, and when I was there, I remember it very, very well. The ending of this concert, I was actually almost literally woken up by the clapping of the audience. I had actually disappeared. I went somewhere through the symphony. You know what I mean? It was such an experience for me. I found myself in a place, in a creative place where I had never been before. And after that moment, when the concert finished, I knew 100% this was going to be my job, for sure. And then many people said at the time, are you sure? This is a very competitive field. Why don't you keep, training with the flute? And I had such clear idea. I didn't listen to anybody. I said, okay, look, guys, this is going to go. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. And that's it.
And do you think it was also part of this experience that you didn't have an instrument to deal with technically and get into this, or was it of course you've got other technical issues of being a conductor, but still it's just one level above the technical issues of us instrumentalists. You think it's also something to do with this, that you faded away into another world being a conductor first time?
That's a good point. I think in a way it's true. I did find a land of freedom there, because of course a lot of what you do as a conductor, you do in preparation, you do in silence, you do really dreaming. You dream about the music and you need to build the sound in your head. So when you are with the musicians, then you drive towards that goal you have. And of course you share the journey with them, because they sometimes, many times, when you come back, and this is a beautiful thing about my job, you have a very clear idea of what you want. And many times you hear something, of course, that you haven't thought about, and you think this is wonderful. And this is something you pick up on the journey. And it's a wonderful thing. But of course, the creative part of conducting has this quality of freedom that is not constrained by technique. Technique for conducting is very important, but you of course don't have to work very hard on your upbeat for 12 years before you can actually perform a Beethoven symphony, While if you want to play Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto, you need quite a lot of years before you can even attempt to play it. So perhaps also this was a factor. I must say, looking back, I was not really a flute player. It's not in my DNA. Maybe I chose the wrong instrument, but maybe that was a good thing, because that kind of made me search for other things. And before I began conducting, the last years as a flute player, they were not very happy years for me, because I didn't really feel I was made to play the flute. I had clear idea I was made to make music, but not to play the flute. And so, in a way, going to conducting was a very natural thing for me, because I think I had the talent to perform and to communicate, and I had the wish to do it, and I had the ambition and the capabilities. But suddenly I left behind a path that clearly was not my path.
And do you think you were aware of the weight and what's the word? English. Come on. Yeah, about being a leader at this young age. I mean, didn't you think about being? What's the word? Sorry, I have to. Do you know what I mean?
Leadership, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, the Verantwortung. Sorry.
Don't worry.
Responsibility, of course.
Responsibility.
Where did you think you were aware of the responsibility of being a leader when you stepped into being a leader at this young age?
I don't think that was something no, I didn't feel the weight of responsibility. And I must say, since I was a kid, I was always happy in a leading position, whether it was playing with other kids or I actually remember when I left primary school, we were given the results of this psychological test. We were done with, I don't know how old I was when the test was done, maybe 10, 11. And there was leadership qualities was there at the top, Yeah, so I always felt, for instance, this is just an anecdote. I like filming very much. And when I was, at the same time as I began conducting, I wanted to do a film with my friends. And, I must admit, my talent as a filmmaker is not as good, certainly, as a conductor. So what we did was really not that good. And my idea was not really that special. But I managed to get involved quite a lot of people to get them 5 days into filming for many hours and filming during the night and jump into a river and, and all sorts of things, because somehow they believed in my project, which I must, again, I mean, in this case, was not that special. So I always felt, for some reason, I do feel happy on that. I mean, if you don't feel happy in a leading position, you would never survive as a conductor. And so, but I must say, at the moment, precisely because this was also help I got from a teacher at the Guildhall School. When I told it was Peter again, the head of wind and percussion at the Guildhall. I said to him, "Look, Peter, I want to be a conductor. I feel this is something I really want to do. I want to explore." And he said to me, "Do you have any friends?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, why don't you do a concert?" And I said, "Well, should I not get some lessons before?" I said, "Sure. You get some lessons and then you get some friends and we're going to see how it goes." I mean, his point was, of course, his point was not, you just go and do it. You don't need to learn anything. He said, you first need to see if you have what it takes to be a conductor. He wanted to see if I had the capability to bring people together and to make them trust me into the project. Basically, he wanted to see if I had the leadership qualities, which was a very good advice. Because what I did is, before this Beethoven First Symphony I conducted, I only had actually one term of lessons. I had basic technique lessons with Alan Hazelton, who was then my teacher. Just 2.5 months of lessons, that was all. And then I did this Beethoven Symphony. Of course, my technique was not good at all. And I had no experience, I had nothing. I only had the music and the enthusiasm. But my friends, it was exactly 54 players. For some reason, these numbers stay here. 54 players. They all seemed to enjoy it very much. And after that concert, with a conductor with no experience at all, who was probably making all sorts of mistakes, another concert came up, I think it was Mendelssohn Scottish or whatever, and they all kept coming until one day we did Shostakovich 5 with more than 80 players, and so things seemed to work that way. And this was a very good advice this man gave me, because I also did it upside down. I first tried and see if it worked, and when I could see, yeah, this can work, then I got all the training alongside the practice. And for me, this was actually a luxury. I think I was also in a very good place for me to study conducting, because I was very lucky to actually learn as I was actually practicing. But I could practice because all these players wanted to play with me for some reason. So this was a good way to see, okay, this is working,
Yeah, I remember. I was part of it.
Yeah, of course.
So, and before you said also being a conductor is a lot of preparation and sitting at home and dreaming your own dreams. So how do you approach a piece of music? And if possible, if you have a example, a recent
Sure.
one.
Yeah, I mean, approaching a piece of music, it depends very much whether the piece is totally new, something you don't know anything about. Then if I have enough time, uh, I like approaching the study at the beginning in a casual way. I sit at the piano, play a passage, see what the music tells me. You know, I like also spending quite a lot of time in silence, building up the sounds in my head and seeing where it takes. At some point, of course, in the process, I'm going to read about the historical context. This is very important. And this is something I enjoy very much doing with pieces I've conducted many times. You know, like, for instance, a couple of years ago, I had to do Tchaikovsky's Pathetique Symphony, which I've done many, many times. And I began reading again about it and reading about Tchaikovsky's life and the, you know, the meaning behind the Pathetique. It has been the subject of many, many musicology papers. And I found this very, very original thesis about the Pathetique of Tchaikovsky inspired in the Passion of Jesus Christ, which I thought was very interesting. So, of course, this was just a theory, but when I approach a score that I've done many times or that is very well known, I like to find out different approaches about what the composer wanted and how is this related to his life. And then, of course, at the end, I'm going to make decisions also based on my intuition as a performer, but they will always be affected by all this data here. And sometimes, I must admit, I use the history as an excuse, because sometimes you hear something that sparks other thing in your mind, in your brain, and then suddenly this phrase that you always used to sing this way, you do it in a different way, and you may not be able to justify this sort of scientifically, you know, but it makes sense. So at the end, in a way, this is almost like brainstorming when you're looking for an idea. And another thing that I like doing very much is whenever I find a piece of music that I have challenging in terms of the structure of the piece. I think recently we were talking about Schubert's Tragic Symphony, which I did struggle for a bit. Sometimes I like to ask myself, what did the composer want to tell? What did he want to tell me with this? And sometimes I even invent a story. This is just usually for me about what the music is telling me. It may be true, it may not be true. But of course, at the end, if you are really honest with yourself, you do find that the composer is telling you at this particular moment something to do with that. The story may not be the actual story, but the emotions are behind there. So in a way, it is a journey about connecting with the person that is on the other side, of course, with the creator. I'm just the performer, to try to connect with the creator, to try to find the communion with the primal energy that managed to put those notes on paper, you know. And it is a beautiful journey. On a more practical way, of course, I'd have to analyze the harmony and the structure, and I have to, as I said, be very careful about building the blocks of sound in my head. This is a beautiful thing. Some scores you open and you hear in your head. Other scores, you know, if you open Strauss' Salome for the first time, you need a while to find the transposing horns and all the harmonies, and you may actually want to sit at the piano, play a few chords to make sure that you're actually managing all that into your head. So sometimes the process takes longer, but it is a beautiful process. I find it's really like building a world sound inside, and then you need to take so many decisions when you conduct, you know, about really everything, about the tempo, the articulation. But of course, what I enjoy even more is about the quality of the sound. What sound do you want here? For that, I find very useful also to look for metaphors, you know, for adjectives. How is this sound? If it was a surface, what would it be? You know, if it was a color, of course, it's a simple one. What would it be? But if it was a person, how is this person? You know, sometimes in music you find Harnoncourt used to talk very much about rhetoric. You know, the rhetoric, the people talk, how people speak, and this I actually learned also from him watching his rehearsals. I find very useful, especially in the classical and early romantic music. The music is like speech, really, very much. So it's very interesting to see if you can actually see the person who is talking, and how is he talking, how is he moving, what is the body language. You know, and these are also very useful resources when you are with the orchestra.
So, but this what you said now is all happening before the rehearsals.
This is all happening before the rehearsal, sure. But some of these last things, the metaphors and sometimes they come up in the rehearsal, which I like very much.
Yeah.
So it's not something you thought before, but you are talking to the orchestra, you are not getting really the phrasing how you want, and then suddenly you see this man here who is really like the character you're describing, or you are seeing a ray of light coming into the hall, and you realize that this is really like the top G that we are trying to find, you know. So this is a very organic process, and it has many stages. It also, you know, some days I admit I sit down, I only see notes here on the score. I only see B flat major, and it's not a very inspired day, but it's fun. And other days you're sitting on the plane. I love very much when I travel somewhere. I do the last study on the plane, and I like very much. I don't know if it's the movement, the noise, or the distractions, but sometimes my mind drifts away, and this is great. I suddenly get some insights. I think also it's because the date of rehearsal is approaching, you know. So I cannot allow myself anymore to just look at B flat major. This is obvious, you know. Then suddenly some other ideas come. You know, I remember doing Nielsen's Fourth Symphony, and I read that Nielsen had an idea about the origins of life in Earth. And at the same time, I was reading a fascinating book about the origins of life on Earth, and this was a coincidence actually. And when I was traveling to, I don't know, it was Bilbao, Valencia, I don't know, but anyway, all sorts of images began coming about the formation of the rocks and the volcanoes and the eruptions and the primal energy of life, and also the microorganism and the bacteria and the viruses that were here 2.5 billion years ago. And then all sorts of stories came, and it was great because then when I was rehearsing with the orchestra, we have some really beautiful moments here. But of course, the cue in this case came from basic historic fact reading on the Wikipedia, you know, about how Nielsen thought of the symphony. And from here, you take this thread and you begin building up images. But as I insist, at the end, these are all, in a way, excuses to find an interpretation that is convincing. But I think if you believe, really, you believe in what you do, at the end, even if the person at the other side does not get the same image, he's not going to get, or she's not going to get the same image, the conviction stays there. And the musicians, they really do something that is special. And that's what we strive for.
And what I wonder is, have you got the whole piece, even if it's a long symphony, as a whole, in the back of your mind, in the same way as also the details? So if you think of one symphony, for instance, do you see it as a whole, or are you immediately thinking of details? What's the relation there?
That's a great question too. I think this is very interesting because, as I told you, sometimes I begin studying almost casually. I sit down at the piano, open a page. Well, then you are really looking at the music like this, you know. You look at this, and this is a beautiful. When you have enough time, this is so wonderful. It's like traveling, and you see this and this. You travel through Italy, through little villages, and then one day, if you travel to Italy many times or many years, you may actually have an impression of the whole country. You know, this is the same. You know, when you study, you begin gaining this distance, which is beautiful. Of course, when you, for some reason, Heldenleben is coming, Strauss is coming here because I do this piece. I've done many times, and I know it by heart. And this is a piece that when you actually do it, or you don't need to do it by heart, but I mean, you know the score inside out. Of course, you need to have the score like this. Sometimes there are some tricks that help even at the beginning to do like a timeline of the piece, and you divide the sections. As a student, I even used to draw some colors or whatever. So you do have on a paper a view of the structure. Musically, of course, all you have are sounds, and sounds they are always limited to a particular moment in time. You know, but with these tools, whether you draw something or you do a diagram, or whether you actually do it with, I mean, if I think of Heldenleben now, of course, the 6 sections, because Strauss himself named the sections, come to my head, and then you have the fight in the middle, and you have the wife here, and so you can see this. It's almost like a structure of a script from a movie, so you can see this, and then you can zoom in. I can zoom into the works of peace of the hero at the end, and you can hear all the quotes, or you can zoom in at the beginning with the hero or the enemies. but when the score is here, it is also a very beautiful process, because I can almost now go to any section and you are there. And you know what's there, and it's wonderful. And of course, this is very important when you perform a piece, especially with symphonies, where the architecture is so important. You really need to know, okay, this detail, but where am I in the map? And this is something I must say you develop more as well, like many things, as you grow older. You know, when you're young, you tend to stay very much in the moment and in the detail, and sometimes you lose track of what is coming. And this is of course crucial also for, as you know, for performing, to know what are we aiming for, where are we going, how can we make this phrase long, and how can we even think of the whole piece like a journey, you know, with shape. So yeah, it's coming back and forward all the time.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, this is what I think is very, very important anyway, and this is basically, you put it very, very nicely now, because this is what I try to what we keep telling our leaders we're working with. Yeah, that you have to. It's so important to have really good preparation, so you've internalized all those details to the big structure and everything, that so you're always able to know where you are and where you are heading to. And this is not really happening in business nowadays.
Really?
There's so much into everyday. I mean, they are suffering on this, and they keep telling me, "Oh, it's so hard. It's all everyday problem solving. Most of the work the leaders are doing is daily problem solving."
Yeah.
And that's not really leadership. That's not leading a whole company or a whole group of people. And you are not. Your main work is not dealing with everyday problems. Your main task is to have a view of the whole of the whole piece. Yeah. Otherwise, it would just not work. And sure. This is why this metaphor of the conductor and this orchestra is so nice, I think. So excellent. Thanks for putting it that in this nice way. So what's the time?
Yeah, how are you doing?
No, it's okay. It's okay. 9:45. Yeah, but you, as you know, you're talking quite fast, so we have quite a lot already.
I should.
Quite a lot of information already.
My rhythm, yeah. Sorry.
No, don't worry. It's nice. I'm really happy.
Some things never change, you know.
Yeah, no, but that's really nice. This is so nice for me to. When I talk to you, I'm immediately, you know, drawn back to our days.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, of course.
And I feel really young now.
Yeah. You will be playing the video over and over.
Yeah, exactly.
For youth treatment.
Yeah, maybe my hair will grow back. My hair might grow back even.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but what I'm interested, especially also because I'm working with those business leaders, and they haven't got. They are really curious how it works to lead different orchestras every week, basically.
Yeah.
If you're really busy, and so how do you see your role there, and how do you deal with it?
Okay, now here it comes the most exciting part of my job at a human level. You know, when I began conducting in my 20s, the love for music and the artistic ideals, and they were so huge that music was 98%, 99% of what I thought. And then, of course, I was sharing this with people, but it was music with people. And as I'm growing older, it's much more about the people. The music is there and the love for music is there. But the interactions with the human group and the satisfaction of building a positive relationship and a creative relationship is more and more fascinating to me, because of course, when you look back, it's easy to see your faults or your mistakes, and looking back, I see that this obsession with the musical idea to try to get this sound here and this will sound, this obsession to arrive to a certain place, it kind of robbed me in the past the opportunity to actually find something that could have been even more special if I would have been able to connect more with the group. So I think in the last years, for me, this has been years of personal growth where I have learned through experience to make these connections stronger and stronger. And I think I could not overstate the value of empathy when you work. I know empathy is a word that it's becoming now fashionable, and some, you have to be careful how you use it. It sounds a bit like derived from positive psychology and all its implications. But it is so crucial for a conductor to understand that everybody in front of you is really doing the best they can at every particular moment. Yeah, and this is very important. So that's what I mean about being too idealistic. This is really making self-criticism for me as a young conductor. I have this idea, and sometimes I forgot. I am doing my best. Everybody is doing their best. Now, when you encounter an obstacle in a rehearsal, this is becoming, for me, I must tell you, most of the time now, something so interesting. And I would not say I enjoy the obstacles, but I almost enjoy the obstacles. It's because because with years you begin learning. Okay, here we have a moment of tension. Okay, the first reaction, usually for most young conductors, is to get defensive. You may get defensive with your words, but you may not get defensive with your words. You may get defensive with your gaze, with your body. And the fascinating thing about an orchestra is an orchestra has this intuitive side, like a wild animal. So if somebody says a comment to you in a rehearsal and it bothers you, everybody knows. And when everybody knows, your trust with the orchestra, it begins breaking down. Why this is not for me to analyze. This I leave to social psychologists. But it's as if you when you meet an orchestra, in the first minutes there is this. Everybody subconsciously is analyzing this person. Okay, can I trust this guy? Okay, fine, yeah. There is good energy. Then you build this trust, and we are connected. Now, when any little obstacle appears, if the group notice that you are uncomfortable, this begins cracking down, because you are, whether you like it or not, you have, of course, the role of leadership, and the orchestra really need to be able to trust you. So any kind of I would say even negativity from you, for something that makes you uncomfortable, something that you may look a little angry, this begins cracking down things. Of course, this was not the same 40 years ago, when the role of the leader was different. It was, the conductors could be very mean to the players, and it was a different time. But we are now in year 2000. I'm talking, of course, about the present year, 2021. So now the key how to solve this, one could say, okay, so what do you do? Then you pretend it doesn't bother you? No. This is the beautiful thing. It's not about pretending anything, and that's why I say empathy. It is about empathy. When you have you encounter an obstacle in a rehearsal. Let's say it happens, of course, as you know in orchestras. So that you play a passage, and somebody is not happy and speaks to you in a very direct manner, even kind of violently. Excuse me, why this is not clear? I cannot see number 3. Please, it happens sometimes, or it can be more subtle than that. Yeah, it could be irony. Somebody may make an ironic comment, saying, "I don't like what you are doing." So it's questioning your leadership. Okay. Now, this is a young conductor. It is very frightening, and you get defensive, and everybody knows you're uncomfortable. Now, when you apply empathy here, when you see somebody is not happy and is showing discomfort, and this is creating a negativity in the rehearsal, you instantly, if you are able instantly to apply empathy, and to, instead of hearing a criticism, to hear a request. This person is telling you he needs or she needs something. So the guy is saying, "Excuse me, I don't understand this. This is not clear," or somebody moaning. All he's saying is, "Please, could you help me just a little more?" And if he would say that, you wouldn't mind. If you tell me, "Pablo, can you just a little bit clearer, please?" Because, yes, of course, there's no problem. But of course, when there is aggressiveness towards you, your first reaction is to get defensive or to bother or to answer. So with time, you learn to see these energies, and then the beautiful things come. You understand that your job as a conductor is to serve the group, because this is your main job. I mean, who is playing? The orchestra is playing. What are you doing? You are leading the orchestra. And what are you doing? You are serving the orchestra. Why? Because you want them to give their best. And how do they give their best? Being the happiest musicians on earth. How are they the happiest musicians on earth? Being able to express themselves. Okay, so they have to be comfortable. In other words, any negativity, any personal obstacle, any moment of tension, it is just really somebody asking you for help. It is like that. And you realize, actually, this is not, of course, only about conducting. You know, anybody that doesn't treat you very well, in fact, it's actually asking something about you. I read in some years ago, 5 years ago, I came across the psychology of Marshall Rosenberg. I don't know if you know this guy.
Yeah.
He was the founder of the nonviolent communication school. He died, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And I always talk about him because I do feel in debt to him. After reading his books and learning about him, he talked a lot about this, the way human beings express their needs. You know, sometimes we do it in a very polite and civilized manner, sometimes we don't. So if you're able to understand that however anybody communicates to you is really actually expressing a need, it may be a need to rest, it may be a need to express himself, whatever it is. If you connect with that, then there's not going to be no problem. So about coming back to the beginning of the question, when you're dealing with a group, you need to be very conscious of everybody's needs. Of course, you cannot make everybody happy. That's a different thing. And you need to be true to your artistic goal. And you need to find, and this is an intuitive thing, you know, if you're pushing the group into something that the group finds difficult, you know, it's challenging. That doesn't mean if somebody expresses or you notice that this is hard for them, you suddenly drop your goal. No, not at all. It's actually the other way. You need to find ways to keep the motivation there. And you do that, of course, always focusing on the positive, which is what we are striving for. You know, you need to be more convincing. Rather than saying, this orchestra, they don't really, they are not ambitious enough, you know. No, that's really not true. Maybe you have not convinced them, you know. And this is also a very important thing about a leader. It's never the group's fault. It's never anybody's fault, of course, by the way. But the person that has the key to change, it's you as a leader. You cannot say, why don't they, I don't know, why are they not more ambitious? Why don't they play this 3 times? Why is not more together this? Why don't they doesn't really help, because as I said before, they are doing their best in the moment. Who has the key to change? You. Why? Because you are in the leading position, which is a wonderful thing. It's a gift. So because you are in the leading position, then it's up to you to figure out ways. Okay, we done 4 times not together. Well, maybe I need something else. Maybe I need to stop telling them it's not together. Maybe I need to draw an image, you know. This is like opening a champagne bottle. Pam, you know, we need that sound. And everybody with a champagne bottle, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe, you know, you need to find something. But my point is, again, this is self-criticism about many young conductors. Sometimes if you focus too much in what is not working, that's not going to lead you anywhere. And the main thing is the key for change always comes from the leader. You are the one that has it. And once you discover this and your frame of mind swaps in this direction, then all sorts of wonderful possibilities open. And you know, I remember 3 years ago, going to an orchestra in Spain, of course, I will not say where. And it's an orchestra that within Spanish musicians, it has bad fame. You know, people say, oh, you're going there? Oh, goodness me, good luck. You know, one of these places. Oh, yes, people there, they talk all the time, and the attitude is very bad, the discipline. I mean, this was at the time when I had already made this change. So I went to this place, which of course, I don't say what it is. And I had the most wonderful week. Of course, I must say I was warned, okay? So I had an extra preparation, but I had the most wonderful week. You know? Yeah, I find a wonderful orchestra. I thought, okay, I did notice this. The first rehearsal, I don't mean with this, I noticed they were like this, but I mean, I did notice the discipline of work, the dynamics, the attitude, whatever it was, something was not ideal there. But of course, then you may think, why is not ideal? There may be problems in whatever, work conditions, personal, whatever. You may encounter many problems in a group of people. And that weekend there, as a leader, I get this feeling, and all I thought it was, okay, so we need some something extra. We need some energy. We need to connect. We need to inspire. And that is the key word. You need to inspire people. And when things don't work, if people talk too much, maybe they are bored. And who is leading the rehearsal? You. Well, if people talk too much and you are leading the rehearsal, is it they? Is it them? Is it all this orchestra? Or is it maybe you? You know, so it's, I'm not saying it's the conductor's fault, but certainly it's yeah, you are leading the rehearsal. So anyway, so this is something beautiful about my job, and how also happens the other way. Yeah? A week is going fantastically, and then you make a comment, and then you notice, wow, something cracked there. That was not the right moment to say that. And these little things you learn with time. You know, these little things, but it's funny how you can almost see the bridges of energy with all the players, and how sometimes everything flows wonderfully, and next minute it goes. The energy goes. Maybe they've given a lot of power in a passage, and of course after that they are a little tired. If you don't realize that and you keep asking for more, maybe things go down. And it's normal for a young conductor to say, oh, what is happening now? Well, you need to learn to read all this, and this is a wonderful thing, really wonderful thing. But I do think empathy is the key. When I was in London, I remember some student used to go and watch Simon Rattle rehearsal, and he told me a comment about him. He told me he always knows what the musicians need. And it was great. He really knew. And actually, some musicians from the orchestra, I think it was Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment. I was watching a rehearsal. You know, the moment we feel, well, I think we could do with a break. Okay, let's have a break. You know, it's as if he can actually read people's minds. You know, this is, of course, a gift he has, but it exemplifies very well a quality a conductor needs to have. You need to be able to feel this need. You see, but we come back to the same, the needs. Sometimes we express it in certain ways, but you always need to be responsive and sensitive to it.
Great.
That was a long answer. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but a very, very nice one. And thank you very much. It's
pleasure.
A very, very good one. Basically, this is just a side question, but you know, working with those leaders in business leaders, they all have tons and tons of leadership workshops and communication workshops and blah, blah, blah workshops. Yeah. And I always tell them that the conductors don't do this. Have you ever done any kind of communication workshop or?
No, but this is a good question. I've not done communication workshops, but I've done something that for me it has been helpful, which is acting, theater, drama training, which I've done. And I find this very useful. For instance, about, you know, how I speak very fast. This is my natural rhythm. And I have had to learn with the times when I am with a big group of people, with a distance, in a different country, with a different language. I had to learn to communicate in a different way. And for this, acting for me has been very useful. Also for many other things, like the presence of the body. And when you are leading a group, the more conscious you are about your tools, communication tools, which one of them, the primary, is your body language. This is the best. In my path, this has been useful, drama coaching. But no, I have never had an actual leadership workshop. And that's why I'm very self-critical. When I look at myself in my 20s, you know, I made so many mistakes that are obvious from a leadership framework, you know. So maybe it could have been useful for me, probably. But all I was told was about the music and the technique, the beats and the whatever. And, you know, you just get on with it. And of course, you see some content. Tell me.
Yeah. But on the other hand, you know, the reason that there is no leadership workshops for conductors and theories, this helps them to develop their own way of leading. And this is, of course, one key thing to being successful. And this is what we tell our business leaders. But it, of course, it helps that you decide quite early in your life that you will become a leader. As you said, in the early 20s, that's quite normal for most of them. And then you've got time to develop your own and look back on your path and make your decisions there.
Yes, and I think also it's true that for conductors, when you begin, well, what is normal in your 20s at a young age, if you are lucky enough, which I think is not so difficult, there is a lot of musicians in the orchestra that will tell you wonderful advice. So I must say a lot of the refining of the leadership craft of my job, I go through comments from not only from conducting teachers, but actually mostly from players, because they know instantly. They say, did they come, you know, if you're lucky and you have somebody with a good heart, they come and say, look, Pablo, I know when you're very young, of course, you're trying to get this, but why don't you try this? And then you begin trying things. And this is how, as you say, you develop your qualities as you go, you know, which is ideal. But I think this is another important thing, the feedback from the group. You know, of course, at the moment, I could not go around asking for advice, but of course, somebody that trusts me may come and tell me, and I'm very happy to receive comment. But when you are young, this is an integral part of training, you know. And some very good advices I got from I remember actually an advice from Gordon Nikolic, ex-concertmaster of the LSO. You know, when he saw me conducting when I was very young, he said, "Look, Pablo, is very good, but there is too much inflation." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, you know, when there is too much money, the value of money is decreases. So when there's too much gesture, you know, things like this." So this was a very wonderful tip from players. So yes, it's and nowadays for many young conductors there is this assistant conductor schemes and places like this where they actually on purpose have a young conductor who is learning alongside an orchestra, and this is very good. So they can this is really the most valuable feedback, you know, rather than a theory of leadership. I think what you need to actually is get the information from the people you are going to work with. This is ideal. Yeah.
Great, thank you.